Hi. We week later and I'm still rocking the Free People knit. You know, my hair looks good today too, but I just used Pantene. Hi, welcome to God's a Feminist. So today's video I wanted to be about the topic of sex before marriage because what I was taught in church and in, growing up is not actually what it says in the Bible. For a lot of people, especially in the church, the topic of sex before marriage is really, really taboo, and it really shouldn't be. But for whatever reason, the church has dictated this false narrative about sex before marriage. And unfortunately, they have even equated sex before marriage to murder. And sex before marriage is not murder. Rape is murder. Rape in marriage and rape outside of marriage is murder. Okay? If you rape someone, that's the same as murdering someone. If you have sex before marriage, it is not the same as murdering someone. That is crazy. And there's this whole, rape culture about, don't try before you buy. It doesn't say that in the Bible. It says if you try, you buy in the Bible. In Exodus, I'll read the verse. Exodus 22, verse 16, if a man seduces a virgin who is not betrothed and lies with her, he must pay a dowry marriage price for her to be his wife. If her father absolutely refuses to give her to him, he must still pay money equivalent to the dowry of virgins. That is all it says about sex before marriage in the Old Testament. That is all. It doesn't say, don't try before you buy. It says, if you try, you gon' buy. That is really important. The only other verse that I ever hear people referring to when they're talking about sex before marriage is a verse in the New Testament. I think it's in James, I want to say, where it talks about fornicators. And I gotta tell you, fornicators, the word fornicators doesn't exist in the Greek version of the New Testament. The word fornicators was created by English people around the 16th century, and English people suck, okay? Ask a Native American person, ask a black person, ask an Irish person, ask an American person. We won the Revolutionary War. We don't like English people. Seriously, there's so much that's just not in the Bible, that's not in the original translation, that's not correctly taught inside of church. And it's ridiculous, ridiculous, ridiculous. It's wisdom. You're gonna make mistakes. You're not gonna live a perfect life. Nobody makes wise choices 100% of the time. So just because you've done something that is unwise does not mean that you're a murderer. So I'm going to read from Proverbs 5, and it just talks about wisdom for sex. My son, be attentive to my wisdom, godly wisdom learned by costly experience. Incline your ear to my understanding that you may exercise discrimination and discretion, good judgment, and your lips may reserve knowledge and answer wisely to temptation. For the lips of an immoral woman drip honey like a honeycomb, and her speech is smoother than oil. But in the end she is bitter, like the extract of wormwood, sharp as a two-edged sword. Her feet go down to death, her steps take hold of Sheol, the netherworld, the place of the dead, so that she does not think seriously about the path of life. Her ways are aimless and unstable, you cannot know where her path leads. Now then, my son, listen to me and do not forget the words of my mouth. Let your way in life be far from her, and do not go near the door of her house. Avoid even being near the places of temptation. Or you will give your honor to others, and your years to the cruel one, and strangers will be filled with your strength, and your hard-earned wealth will go to the house of a foreigner who does not know God. And you will groan when your life is ending, when your flesh and your body are consumed, and you say, how I hated instruction and discipline, and my heart despised correction and reproof. I have not listened to the voice of my teachers, nor have I inclined my ear to those who instructed me. I was almost in total ruin in the midst of the assembly and congregation. Drink water from your own cistern of a pure marriage relationship, and fresh running water from your own well. Should your springs' children be dispersed as streams of water in the streets? Confine yourself to your own wife, let your children be yours alone, and not the children of strangers with you. Let your fountain wife be blessed with the rewards of fidelity, and rejoice in the wife of your youth. Let her be as a loving hind and graceful doe. Let her breast refresh and satisfy you at all times. Always be exhilarated and delight in her love. Why should you, my son, be exhilarated with an immoral woman, and embrace the bosom of an outsider pagan. For the ways of a man are directly before the eyes of the Lord, and he carefully watches all of his paths, all of his comings and goings. The iniquities done by a wicked man will trap him, and he will be held with the cords of his sin. He will die for lack of instruction, discipline, and in the greatness of his foolishness he will go astray and be lost. And so this passage is aimed just to give wisdom about who you share yourself with, who you share your heart, your soul, your mind, your body with. God wants us to have sexual relationships out of love. The people that he describes and is warning against are not loving people. They're people who are toxic people, are people who engage in hard partying, in drugs, in addiction, in unhealthy lifestyles, in dangerous lifestyles, lifestyles that could result in death. And these are the people that God's warning you not to sleep with. God is not warning you to not sleep with people who love you. In fact, he wants you to value yourself and to love yourself. And that means being intentional about who you share yourself with, and making sure that those people have the same care and concern for your heart, soul, mind, body that you should have. And that means that when you're selecting a sexual partner or a potential spouse, you have to select somebody who honors your body and who honors what your body needs and who will serve your body and your body's needs. And it says that in 1 Peter 3, verse 7, in the same way you husbands live with your wives in an understanding way, with great gentleness and tact, and with an intelligent regard for marriage relationship, as with somebody physically weaker since she is a woman. Show her honor and respect as a fellow heir of the grace of life, so that your prayers will not be hindered or ineffective. And that is a warning for husbands. Because if you do not honor your wife's body, if you do not serve and respect the needs of your wife's body, then your prayers will be hindered and ineffective. As I come to being a young woman, about to turn 25, so mid-20s, a full entire woman, I am. And I'm learning more about my body and my sexual health and my heart, and how my heart and my spirituality engages with my sexuality and serves my sexuality and cares for my sexuality and loves my sexuality and celebrates my sexuality. As I come and learn all of these things that God has put in my heart and in his word, I'm learning that to care for my own body is to know my own body, and to respect my own body, and to respect it being sexual, and to respect how it works anatomically and biologically. And there are too many men out there who don't have any respect for how a woman's biological body works or sexual body works. None at all. A wife is not a sex slave. A wife is not a prostitute. A wife is not a sex doll. If you want a body to sleep with whenever you want, however you want, you should buy a sex doll. Because a sex doll will not love you, just like a woman who you rape will not love you. But when we talk about sex, we have to do it in a loving way. We have to do it in a celebratory way. We have to do it in a sex-positive way, in an engaged, informed, healthy way, so that we can take care of our bodies and we can take care of the bodies of others, which is what sex is supposed to be. There's this pamphlet called Designer Sex by Philip Yancey, and this is a really good explanation of how the church has corrupted its own views on sexuality into something that is unbiblical historically. So it says, I dwell on the church's severe attitude towards sex because I believe we Christians bear heavy responsibility for the counter-reaction so evident in modern society. Jesus treated those who had fallen into sexual sins with compassion and forgiveness, and reserved his harshest words for the hidden sins of hypocrisy, pride, greed, and legalism. How is it that we who follow him use the word immoral to signify sexual sins almost exclusively and reserve church discipline for those who fail sexually? Perhaps worse, though, the church in its prudery has silenced the powerful rumor of transcendence that could point to the creator and originator of human sexuality, who invested in it far more meaning than most modern people can imagine. We have desacralized it, in effect, by suppression and denial, and along the way our clumsy attempts at repression helped empower a false infinite. Sexual power lives on, but few see in that power a pointer to the one who designed it. Few Christians hollow sex in the way that we hollow nature. I know many hymns that celebrate natural creation, but none that celebrate sexuality in the way that Song of Solomon or the Book of Proverbs does. In the old Anglican marriage ceremony, a husband used to declare to his bride, "With my body I thee worship," acknowledging sex as a gift of God that could become a form of homage, even praise. "The nakedness of a woman is the work of God," said William Blake, as he gave a Job-like list of natural wonders, portions of eternity too great for the eye of man. Blake had it nearly right. In a truly Christian view, the naked body is indeed a portion of eternity, but designed exquisitely for the eyes of a man and woman. Uptight Christians forget the fundamental fact that God created sex. Having studied some anatomy, I marvel at God's laboring over the physiology of sex, the soft parts, the moist parts, the millions of nerve cells sensitive to pressure and pain, yet also capable of producing pleasure. The intricacies of erectile tissue, the economical and ironical combination of organs for excretion and reproduction, the blending of visual appeal and mechanical design, as the zoologists remind us in comparison with every other species, the human is bountifully endowed. A connected view of life assumes this is God's world, and that despite its fractured state, clues of its original design remain. When I experience desire, I need not flinch in guilt, as if something unnatural has happened. Rather, I should follow the desire to its source, in search of God's original intent. All of this is to say that you have the right to your own personal relationship with your own sexuality. And anyone who tries to take that away from you is a liar. They don't have the right to do that. God gives you the right to have your own relationship with your own sexuality. He gives you your own free will. He gives you your own heart that desires sex. And your heart is a good thing. I would just use this time to encourage all of you to explore deep within your heart your own sexuality, because your heart is connected to your sexuality. And there's a lot of people, and you know who they are, who don't act like it is. Whether it's trashy people outside the church or rapists inside the church. It's disgusting. It's absolutely disgusting and deplorable and degenerate. And there's nothing good about a person inside or outside of the church who wants to take something from you that God has rightfully given to you. And your sexuality is one of those things. When we talk about love, there's no way that we can live in love without living in love for healthy sexuality and for sex. There's just no way. So there can't be this disconnect, because what the disconnect is hatred, and it's lies, and it's sin. I would encourage you all to endeavor to bridge that disconnect in your own lives. Thank you for watching. Bye. See you next time.